Chair Phillips is the all-American story. Born of humble roots in rural Alabama, he's now leading FERC, as Shelby pointed out, and before that, he was chair of the DC Commission. He was a beloved member of the Keystone, both boards, the Energy Board and then the main board. And we just learned tonight from Senator Manchin that Willie also is the doppelganger for Willie Nelson. So how did you pull that off?
You know, first of all, Clint, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for the board. There's so many friends here to name tonight. I won't get it started, but I'll just say this. For a person like me, from a place like where I'm from, in rural Alabama, from a family like mine, to be asked by the President of the United States to lead an agency for the US government, I truly believe that that can only happen in a place like America. Only in America is that possible. But I have to say, I have to give a lot of people credit other than myself. And I think it starts with my family. You know, we may have been from humble beginnings, but we were rich in so many ways. And they passed that on to me. And that's what I try to do every single day, is to keep that in front of me, to keep in front of me where I'm from and the people who are still where I'm from.
Chair Phillips, and by the way, this is who Willie really is. This is authentic. You have served on the board of Keystone. You've learned consensus building techniques. You're now chairing an organization that until recently was nonpartisan in how they behaved. Now it's very partisan. How are you bringing Keystone's mission of consensus building and respect to your leadership at FERC?
Well, I think as a leader, and there's so many great leaders here tonight, I think it starts with realizing that it's not about me. It starts with, you said the word, it's respect. You approach people, and we're what we call a divided commission. So we have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And when I took over in January, there were lots of articles written about how nothing was going to get done. And like the congressman that spoke, if you make building consensus a part of your initial goal, you approach your colleagues with respect, and you tell them, look, we're not going to agree on everything. And that's okay, but it's more than okay. If you disagree with me, that doesn't make you evil, and doesn't make me evil either. But what we can do is we can both agree that when it comes to building important things in America, when it comes to clean energy infrastructure, when it comes to making sure that underserved communities are able to have access to the energy resources that they need at affordable prices, we can all agree on that. So then you work toward a common goal, a common compromise. And I have to give all of the credit to my colleagues. You know, they just allow me to be the leader from time to time.
Chair Phillips, you have 5 themes, if I recall properly, goals that you have set at FERC. Reliability, affordability, equity, sustainability, and environmental justice. What motivated you to get behind these particular goals?
You know, it's so interesting. I believe that reliability is job number 1 because it has to be job number 1. I think being a state regulator, I can tell you people tend to notice things like the lights not being on. And so, you know, we have to keep that as our number 1 goal. Affordability. If we cannot do what we're trying to do affordably, we will not do it successfully. And I think that growing up the way I grew up, it's never far from my mind. You know, I was in a meeting yesterday, and some of my team is here. They were in this meeting. So I actually said this. We were talking to a utility executive, CEO, and we were talking about energy poverty. And it's so funny, it was a global issue that we were talking about, but I let them know, I said, you know, I grew up with a wood-burning stove, and this was in the 80s. We had it both heat our home, and that's how we made our food. And then we got upgraded to propane in our home. But even then, I remember when the trucks would pull up to my family's home, and the guy would hop out. It was always a guy back then. He'd have a clipboard. He'd say, go get your mama, go get your daddy. I'd talk to him. And they'd try to pull together enough to pay the man to keep the lights on. And sometimes it worked. And sometimes the man would go to the box, do his thing, and we would be in the dark. I'm not going to get to all 5 because we have a lot to get through tonight, but I'll tell you this. I refuse to believe that in 2023, in the greatest country the world has ever seen, that we can't plan for a clean energy future and also take care of our environmental justice communities. I refuse to believe that.
You know, my team and I represent some cities, and one of the most heartbreaking things is when we are in a council meeting, for example, and an elderly person or fixed income or someone with energy poverty comes forward, and they have to basically make a choice between medicine, groceries, rent, or paying the utility bill. So I've always been impressed at your level of empathy, but I didn't fully understand the details. We have a couple minutes left. I couldn't live with myself if I did not mention your amazing wife, Gabrielle. Many of you know her. She is a senior diplomat in the U.S. Embassy in Prague. And how is she influencing your life? And I've seen some that I'd love to hear you express it.
You know, I thank you so much for mentioning my wife. It is the best decision that I've ever made. And I have to tell you, just watching her and her career, it inspires me. But I'll tell you this, without her, there would be no me. And she supports me in a way that allows me to make this path. She keeps reminding me, though, she said, at some point you're going to get a real job, right? And chip in on helping this family. But I have to say, she is an amazing mother. We have 2 small children, 12-year-old, a 9-year-old. She's a diplomat, foreign service, doing econ policy, and she has her own business as well. I mean, I have to say, I have nothing to complain about when I look at everything that's on her plate.
There is, let me ask you one quick question, and that is, what's keeping you up at night now as chair of FERC? You mentioned reliability, equity.
You know, it's interesting. I think where you sit sometimes depends on where you stand. And I think now I've been a private practitioner. I've worked at the North American Electric Reliability Corporation at NERC. I've been a state regulator, and now I'm the chair of FERC. I think the consistent thread through every position I've ever had has focused on reliability, affordability, sustainability. And when you ask the question of what keeps me up, I think that you can have, and I have, personal policy positions that I want to see achieved. But I think as the leader of an agency responsible for 7% of the economy, and some people say the first 7% of the economy, I don't think I have the luxury to not focus on making sure we have the resources necessary to keep our grid secure. Thank you. About a year ago when I first joined FERC, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and we've talked about that some tonight, it sent ripple effects throughout the global energy market. And it really is, in the past year, one of the main key events that has impacted our energy policy both here and around the globe. And I think it's a cautionary tale as to, if you take your eye off the ball, and that is reliability, of what the results can be. I'm gonna tell you something. I ain't been here long enough to let that happen on my watch.
Willie, I'm going to close out just by saying that when the Keystone family learned that you were going to win this leadership award, they were thrilled. You are beloved here. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank y'all.